Welcome back to the HiFi Summit. How is everybody doing? We have got Phil from Yamaha here, and we're going to walk through some integrated amplifiers. And yeah, how are you doing, Phil?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. It's casual Friday.
Oh, yeah.
You got the Hawaiian shirt going, so we're
like
doing
it.
all right. We're doing all right.
Super cool, man. Good to have you on the show. Thanks for being a part of the HiFi Summit. Been having a great day so far.
You know, that's what I was telling you. This was, the more I thought about this, getting ready for this, the cooler it got in my mind. So this is just really, it's exciting to be part of this and having one place where everyone could come and just check out what we love. You know, it's the HiFi stuff.
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
It's great. It's great. I'm so glad we guys got you on board. This is going to be awesome. So, yeah, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, why don't you switch me over to a screen and we'll get going here. All right. Yeah, cool. So I'm just going to take off then.
Go for it.
So we're going to talk about some.
Yeah, let's just say try everybody watching try to hold off on the questions until after the presentation. It's just going to work out better time-wise for this presentation. Okay.
And there's quite a bit of switching that we'll be doing throughout it. So just make it easier.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Go for it.
It's all yours,
We'll leave some time. Cool. Okay, we're going to talk about Yamaha integrated amplifiers. We just launched a line in April of 3 new models. So we're going to talk about that. And first of all, you got to know who I am. This was me back in January before I grew the beard and got locked down at home.
Nice.
So I've been with Yamaha for 36 years almost coming up. And I've had positions in technical training, technical services, customer services, sales, ran the training department for 10 years, and now in marketing. So I figured before I retire, they're finally going to find a position for me that I can hold down.
Nice.
So I was like, for 5 or 8 years, they moved me to a completely different department. So, but that's what's made it a lot of fun. And, and over that time, I've seen so much in technology. I just wrote an article on the history of Yamaha AV receivers. And our first true AV receiver back in 91, the RXV 850, I had forgotten. No S video, no component video, no HDMI.
Video.
Well, that was that was an upgrade the next year. That first year it was 5 composite inputs, and that was your AV receiver.
That's funny.
So we've come a long way since then, and so, but today we're gonna focus on some HiFi. Here's kind of the little agenda I want to follow along. A little bit of Yamaha history. Yamaha has a cool background, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but there's some interesting stuff in there. And then I'm going to talk about the design of HiFi. I've spent a lot of time with our lead engineer over the last 15, 20 years, and we do a lot of things together. And so I have a lot of insights on what it takes to engineer a high-end piece of audio product. Then we're going to go through the AS3200. That's a $7,500 integrated amplifier, roughly. And then we'll finish up with some Q&A. But what I want to do is when we get down into the amplifier, what I want to do is switch cameras, and we're going to dig into the inside. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff, the guts, because that's my favorite thing. That's how I started with Yamaha, was on the technical side of it. So I like getting in there and seeing what's under the hood. So let's dig in. Yamaha is the largest manufacturer of musical instruments in the world. 1 in 4 musical instruments sold in the world is a Yamaha. We also make motorcycles. That's a whole nother story that came out in the mid 50s. But that gives Yamaha a unique perspective. We build these $100,000, $200,000 grand pianos that you see on television. Artists, all your favorite artists, use them all the time. We know what that instrument sounds like. We've been building them for over 100 years. So that puts us in a position. So when we're trying to play back a recording of a Yamaha piano or a drum kit or guitar or whatever it happens to be, we know what the instrument sounds like. We built it. So now we can make the electronics follow that. So that's kind of the unique Yamaha brand story when it comes to this. I like history, so we'll do the short version. Mr. Yamaha was luckily, he was a very intelligent guy. He founded Yamaha in 1887. One thing that people aren't aware of is that HiFi player, that record player in the middle right there, that is the first piece of electronics in the world that had the tag HiFi on it. We actually tagged the product as a HiFi player. Now, HiFi was talked about at the time and is mainly with records, recording and stuff like that. But we actually had the first piece of hardware that ever had the term HiFi on it. And I think that that's kind of cool. We came into the United States in the mid 70s. The CA 1000 was just super popular. That's what put Yamaha on the map in the US, was that integrated, that's at the bottom. Beautiful wood cabinet and chrome front. And actually the design of what we're going to look at today, the knobs are very similar. We went back retro, 40 years to get the knobs. And then just this last year, we launched what's called the 5000 series. And we're not going to talk about, this is a set of separates, turntable, preamp, amp, and loudspeakers. They were all designed as a system. They're all designed at the same time. It was actually an 8-year process. And Mr. Kumazawa, the head engineer, he was in charge of this. And so every time I'd go back to Japan, I would hear another iteration of the loudspeaker. I've probably been listening to these things, different versions of it, for a good 6 years anyway. And he keeps improving it. And they're really cool products. Check them out online at Yamaha.com and see what it's all about. But the reason I say that, he spent all this time on the 5000 series. He developed a line of integrated amplifiers back around 2000, 2002. And being a brilliant engineer and designer and stuff like that, his team came up with this amplifier that was absolutely perfect. Now, they took it to Germany to a HiFi show, and the reviewer listened to it, auditioned it, and the reviewer goes, "Congratulations, everything is perfect. Low noise, low distortion, all this." Then he paused and he says, "But it didn't move me." And that was just like really kind of took our engineering staff, it kind of stabbed them in the heart a little bit, because they did everything perfect. And that's kind of used to be the reputation of Japanese high-end audio brands. They tended to be perfect. They measured perfect. They spec perfect. They were engineered to be perfect. But they weren't always musical. So they'd sacrifice musicality for specs at the time. Now, we kind of gotten away from that. But when he started designing the 5000 series, that's what he took to heart, was this thing needs to be musical. So every decision that is made in component choice, circuit selection, layout, has to be musical. Now, he has 3 fundamental ideas that they use to judge all their decisions. The first thing, it has to be openness. And kind of their definition of that is, when you're in a concert hall and when the solo pianist is on the center stage and you're sitting in the back row of the concert hall, you can still hear the notes, even if they're played very softly, if it's a great thing. Those are the types of detail that we want. We want to have the openness where the sound can emanate from the products. It has to be emotional. That was the one thing that the reviewer said, "Hey, it didn't move me." Well, we have to get and feel the music. We have to feel the heart of the musician that's in there. I mean, it's more than just the instrument coming through the amplifier. It's everything that's going on. It's his breathing. It's his just his pulse in the music. So we have to be able to hear that. And of course, groove, and their definition of that, it has to reproduce the musical rhythm, and it has to, the bass line, the solid bass line, and things like that. So those are the kind of the design things that went into the 5000 series. Now, we launched the 5000 series last year, and guess what? The same team of engineers worked on the AS series after that, and kind of at the same time, but they finished it up after that. So all the voicing, all the sound characteristics, you know, all that stuff from the 5000, and that's a $45,000 system that you were looking at right there. And that's before wires and cartridges and all that stuff. So it's, you know, it's a fairly high-end system, but we took a lot of that design and goals and everything into the AS3200, and then there's a 2200 and a 1200, the little brothers to this piece right here. So let's get into this. There's 3 models in the line. We're going to talk about the flagship at $7,500.
Well, that's like a few things, man.
Yeah,
like,
now that is now that's quite a bargain when you consider that the amplifier that's in this piece right here is almost identical to what is in the M5000, that 5000 series, which is a $10,000 amplifier by itself. It's just a standalone amplifier. So this has the preamp, still has the gorgeous meters and all that stuff on it. So they're able to take what they learned on that 5000 series, you know, and drop it back down in there. So we have the 3 lines. We're going to focus on this. And I like the picture on the right because those are Yamaha outboard motors, you know, so that you got to like those. 425 horsepower, man. That's right. I can't believe that. So if you're out in the ocean and you want to have a cup of coffee or something like that, what gives you a more stable platform? The boat on the left or the boat on the right? Now, the one on the right might be a lot of fun and you get out to the fishing grounds and stuff, but if you want to have a solid foundation, and everything in audio has to do with mechanical foundation and electrical foundation. You know, it has to be to get noise down, to get reduced microphonics and things like that. So this is kind of an example. Those 2 people on the boat, on either one of those boats, one on the ship, I think of the scene in Top Gun where Maverick buzzes the tower and spills the captain's coffee. Right. But normally on that big ship, your coffee would be nice and smooth. If you tried to pour a cup of coffee in that fishing boat, wow.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It'd be all over the place. So how do we do this? How do we get this solid foundation right here? Well, we have to start out with the chassis first. Before we even start putting circuit boards and power supplies and all that, we have to start out with the chassis. First of all, the chassis is just really badass looking. It looks really cool. It's a triple box construction, so it gives us super rigidity. And you can kind of see the lower box, that copper clad one in the middle is just another box shape. And then the 3rd box on top is where the power supply is mounted to, and the heat sinks and all that stuff. So what we've done is done a box within a box within a box, and everything adds more rigidity to the chassis. So it's a super, super solid foundation. So we got to start out with that. The heat sinks. I love heat sinks. I think they're the coolest thing because that's what they do. They cool the transistors. These amplifiers are 100 watts per channel. So they're not ultra high power amplifiers. They're just, you know, what you need. 100 watts is plenty for most speaker systems. But the heat sinks that are in there are probably would be capable of cooling and providing thermal stability for a 500 or 600 watt amplifier. They're huge. They're super thick and they're super dense. One of the reasons why we chose such heavy duty heat sinks on these models, because we mount the amplifier directly to the heatsink. So after it goes through the preamp stage and all that, that circuit board that you see on that amplifier right there, that's the amp itself that's mounted to the heatsink. So that needs to be rock solid, because any vibration that goes down from one will migrate from one transistor to another. And transistors, I mentioned something called microphonics, and that's it happens with audio electronics. And if you run a current or a surge through a transistor, through a silicon device, it will generate a vibration, like a piezoelectric tweeter type of action. At the same time, so it'll send vibration down through the heat sink. It's very small. It's minuscule. It goes down through that. But on the other hand, if you vibrate the transistor, it will generate an electrical current. So if the one transistor is getting a bass drum kick, boom, and goes right down the line, it'll bolt it to the heatsink. It'll vibrate the heatsink ever so slightly, but the transistors that are next to it will pick up that vibration and generate a little current. And that's noise and that's distortion. We don't want that. So we make everything mounted super, super solid. And besides, they just look cool too. And when we get inside, we're going to take a look. Now we have to have, we got a solid foundation. We got a solid platform. We need to have a way of setting it on the table. When we set it on the table, we design these feet. And the best way to isolate a piece of electronics is with spikes, because all the energy has to go through that pinpoint spike. But what we do is we have a 3-piece design. There's a little spike right there, and then this little puck right here in the center, I don't know if you can see that, on the lower left, is held in place loosely. It's not bolted down tight, and that cap just holds it in there. So in the upper right-hand slide that you see right there, every time you set this unit down, it is actually being spiked to that little puck. Now, I think some of you have had this happen before, and that is, this was our old design. Has anyone ever had spikes on their amplifiers? And then you set the amplifier on a nice wood table or cabinet?
Not good.
Then you decide you want to
be good. Not going to be good.
Our CD player, we had a high-end CD player that had the same feet design as this right here. So all my amplifiers, all my prototype amplifiers have really, really nice deep scratches on top from the CD player sitting on top. And with that new foot design, that cap is always in there, and it always spikes it, and you don't have to worry about it. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is when you consider the alternate of it. So we have everything spiked, but we don't have to look at it.
Nice.
Now, before we jump inside the unit here, I want to look at a couple things. The giant transformer, which we'll look at on the inside, one thing that's unique about this, it's a direct draw transformer. So the winding, it's a toroid, so all the magnetic flux stays inside, doesn't affect all these other circuits that are in there. But it's a direct draw. Normally a transformer has the windings, and when you're done winding the transformer, you solder it to a board and you put a pigtail on it, and that's what you solder to, solder to the power supply board. Well, this is crimped on. They just keep winding it, and then when they're done winding the transformer, they just keep adding extra wire and cut it off. So there's no solder connections in this transformer. So it is super low impedance. It gets all the way through with no resistance. So when there's a bass drum kick or an explosion or something like that, dang, that comes flying right on through. We use brass mounting plates. There's brass that's used quite a bit. In high-end audio, brass has a lot of properties that are beneficial. It's a softer metal, and it has a different resonance or different sound quality when just mechanically. Just wrapping it with your knuckle, it'll sound different than a piece of steel. And so we have to, so what we do is we mount all the high power stuff to brass plates before we mount it to the copper chassis. And again, it looks really cool. It's having all the different types of metal inside there. All right, I got, we got a couple more. We'll take a look at this on the inside. I'm not going to spend very much time on the slide right here. I want to get to the inside of this thing right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, get to the good part. Brass screws everywhere. Yeah, it's copper and brass screws, and everything has lugs on it, so it's not solder. Lead solder, tin lead solder, and even silver solder has resistance in it. So when you make, two copper wires, you put them together, and then you solder them, there's the lead and the tin in between there. That has some resistance, and it starts building up. So the best connection is a hardwire connection that's screwed down in there. Now this is the bottom. It just looks really cool, and I'm going to show it to you real life, so we're not going to spend any time on that. But I will show you this, the signal path. What we want to do is get the power in and the power out to the speaker terminals as fast as possible. Signal comes in on the blue on the left-hand side up there. It comes in through the preamp stage that's on that top circuit board, right down to the middle of the amplifier and out. And then it goes straight to the back. So it's as short a signal path as possible. And if you notice, the right channel and left channel are isolated from each other. Those 4 capacitors in the middle, one sets for left channel, one sets for the right channel, completely separate from each other. Everything is symmetrical. Both channels are going the exact same length through the exact same components on either side, but they're separated to give us some beautiful separation. And then the bottom side, that's the power section coming in. So you got the AC cable is mounted in the center of the back of the unit, which seems like a small thing, but most units, you know, it's off to the side. Yeah, because it's easier to put in a cabinet that way. We put it in the center because it's the closest spot to where the transformer is. Nice. So we've just got a nice short run coming into that. Okay, now let's do the fun part here. I am going to switch cameras here for a second.
A lot of details, you know, that you put into your receivers and amplifiers.
Yeah, and you know, that's one thing that's cool working with Yamaha is these guys move around to different departments. So the guys that are working on all this all these products for the integrateds, in a couple of years from now, they might be working on entry-level stereo receivers, which is really funny when you take the guys that have like high budgets and they can do the high-end product and kind of not worry about it. And then all of a sudden you got to make a $200 stereo receiver with lots of features. You got to figure out how to
does
do
that
it.
work? Yeah, exactly.
That's the hardest engineering it is to do the inexpensive stuff with the amount of features that we have to put into them nowadays.
Yep.
So we can make it large here. Can we make him large?
Yeah, put me out there.
So we can get him. John, is there a way to make that full screen on him? There we go.
There we go. Okay. So this is the top cover. Let's get rid of that.
Here we go. Look at that.
Okay. I don't know if you can see there's the top cover is a piece of solid milled aluminum, 6 millimeters thick. And all the milling on the top is all done with a CNC machine. All the milling on the bottom is CNC. It takes 2 hours on a machine to make the top cover. All right, so we're looking in through the top. This is the back here. So all my, I think you can kind of see some of the inputs right there. Yep, all the connectors come right straight in, and they work their way over to there's the giant heat sinks that we talked about. And here's the amplifier boards. Here's our massive toroidal transformer right dead center. So my power cord is right down underneath here at the bottom. So I go straight through. We'll look at that on the other side. So it's right there through the rectifiers and that out to the amplifiers. From the amplifiers, there's heavy cables that bring it back to these really high-end speaker terminals. These things are awesome. They're milled speaker terminals, milled brass. So you can see everything's copper, copper plating. The reason you do copper, and you'll do that, most high-end devices use copper from all brands, but that is, it does some stuff. It's electrically and magnetically, it does some cool things. Because we talked about having a solid foundation. So the solid foundation means electrical also. So by having copper clad in here, the ground, anything that's grounded to the chassis is the same on one side as it is the other. So if I ground something over here on the right-hand side, it might not make it all the way over here to this side. There's going to be a little bit of resistance in there. So the copper takes care of that. All right, let's follow the power supply path. So this right here is the AC plug. Well, trust me, this is where the plug goes, is right here on the back.
Yep.
Coming in, this right here is a relay. So when you turn the power switch on, you guys always hear a click when you turn on your receivers and amplifiers and things. That's what turns that on, and that's what energizes. You see these two screws right here. This is your AC. This is 120 volts. And this little transformer right here, that is your backup transformer. That's your standby. So it's waiting for when you hit the power button on the remote. That's that little thing right there. So this comes through here, AC. 120 volts. It goes through these devices right here. There's these black things next to the blue ones. These are your rectifiers. So that converts your AC out of your wall to DC, and it's very rough DC current at this point. And then from these, it jumps right down to these huge custom-built filter capacitors. This is for this side, and this is for that side. Remember that direct draw I told you about the transformer, the wires that come out of the transformer? That's these white things right here. So the power goes down into the transformer, comes out of the transformer through these direct draw wires, right onto these lugs right here, rectifiers, filter caps. Now we have our high power plus and minus, and guess how far it has to go?
Really
it has to go right to there.
Nice.
I mean, there's no loss at all because it's such a short run.
Sure.
Super heavy gauge wire to go along with it, so we can get the current in and out. So this is kind of the fun stuff. Now, these giant filter caps, plus and minus supply, I think it's plus and minus about 70 volts, I think, on this model right here, 65, 70 volts. That's for the high end for the power amplifier. We still need really clean power for the preamp, for the phono preamp and all that. That's these guys up here. So this is the lower voltage supply. This is usually about plus and minus 25 volts or something in there. These filter capacitors are huge for a preamp. As a preamp, there's no current in a preamp. It's just a little bit of voltage. So that gives that nice voltage stability that makes it really cool. Kind of a side note here. I think you can, where are we at here? Trying to see if we're still on the, there we go. Okay, here's one right here. Okay, see this screw right here? This is where the feet go in. And this is those feet I was talking about. Let's see if we can take a look at that. So those are the three pieces.
Gotcha.
And that goes right there.
Sure.
And then that just floats in here. I don't know if you can hear.
Yeah.
It's loose in there. So then I set it down. It's spiked. It doesn't hurt any furniture or anything like that. So these feet mounts are welded to the chassis. So the screws that just hold the feet on, they took the time to weld them instead of just slamming a bolt through there and just welding it. So this is what we have on the inside. It just looks really cool. These wires right here, these are the actual speaker wires. They're connected over here to the power amp. This is the output of the power amplifier right here and right here. This is PC CCC, pure copper, continuous crystal construction, copper. These speaker wires right here. So these are basically the speaker wires. So it's audio right here, and these terminals right here is audio. That's what's coming out of your amplifier. We need to get back to the terminals. We run it through PC CCC wire to get it back. And what is that? That's like a 9-inch run. I mean, it is really, really short. And you know, you'll see in lower end amplifiers and a lot of surround receivers, you know, especially lower price ones, you'll see the transformer is mounted way off to one side because they can put the power supply over there, and then they just cram the amplifiers, you know, the 5 amps or something on the other side, just for space. But the amp that's closest to the power supply gets more current because it doesn't have as much wires to go through, and then the one that's down at the end of the line gets it a little bit less, or maybe slightly delayed, depending on any type of capacitance that's involved in it. By having everything central and short, this is what you're doing. So this is why you buy an integrated amplifier. Is for this build quality. You know, stereo receivers.
Looks great.
Yeah, stereo receivers are awesome. I mean, because they're just so convenient. You walk up, turn the knob. You can walk up to a stereo receiver, look at a knob, and know what it's going to do next.
Sure.
And sometimes with high-end AV receivers, you know, you got buttons and menus and all kinds of stuff. So sometimes you got to think about it a little bit. So a lot of people really love 2-channel and stereo. So an integrated is just another way to go. So it keeps all the sources external. The power supplies are focused and customized for what they're going to be doing, and doing everything maxed out. I think. You guys have any questions on this?
Dude, I'm really glad you gave us an opportunity to see the bottom, because, you know, a lot of companies will show you the top, but man, just to see that intricacy that went into the design and just the very intentionality of it, I think speaks volumes of, you know, the quality of product that you're trying to produce at Yamaha.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, the top part's really clean looking and looks very impressive, but I don't know. I like the bottom part. There's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Sure.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, let me I'm going to come back and I want to go through the deck a little bit more before we get to questions. We'll probably get to questions in maybe about less than 10 minutes, about 7 or 8 minutes maybe.
Okay.
So like that one there.
One question, it says, are these handmade?
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, there's not a robot that can put brass, screws into the bottom of a capacitor that's in there. So yes, there's a lot of handmade components in there. Of course, the boards are all automated, but when they start assembling it, but the power supply section and mounting the transformer, doing all the screws, there's a lot of labor.
A lot of assembly there.
And that's why, the $7,500 price point we're talking about, seems like a lot, but once you get inside, that's a pretty good value.
Now you see what's happening.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? What do we got for time here?
I am 31.
Yeah, we got the long story and the short story. You guys are lucky. You're getting the long story. I don't know if you're lucky or not, but that's what you're getting.
Go for it.
Okay, so we got the all three of these amplifiers use MOSFET design, and there's 4 MOSFET transistors per channel. One of the benefits of MOSFET is it has the same distortion characteristics as a vacuum tube. People always like vacuum tubes sound warm. That's their reputation as being a warm sound. The reason that is vacuum tubes generate an even harmonic distortion. You can't get rid of harmonic distortion. That's just part of the amplification process. There's physics involved in that. Now you can control it and stuff like that. But it generates an even harmonic distortion. Well, even harmonics are much more pleasant to the ear than odd harmonics. Odd harmonics generate sawtooth waves. If you put enough odd harmonics together, you'll get a sawtooth wave. If you've ever heard that, it's nasty sounding. So we use that. But then another reason we went with this design, it's a patented Yamaha design for the amplifier section. So I think someone asked this A or B. It's an AB amplifier configuration, by the way, but it's a patented design. Okay, I'm going to get squirrely on you guys here. I know some of your
better put on your brain right here. Here we go.
Whoa. In a normal amplifier design, there's your loudspeaker right there, and there's ground. So just forget all the other stuff. I have a PNP or a P channel FET and an N channel FET, or a P and an N, vice versa. If you notice those little arrows in the center of that circles on the FETs, that's the actual output transistor itself. You see one's going one way and one's going the other way. They're 2 different devices. One's an N channel, one's a P channel. It's a different chemical process, a different manufacturing process to make that. So they're not identical. So what's amplifying the plus side of the sine wave is not exactly the same as what's amplifying the negative side of the sine wave. Now, and that generates distortions because they're different from positive and minus. And we have feedback circuits and all that, but let's figure out a way not to do that. Gotcha. So over on the right-hand side, you'll see the Yamaha patented circuit. It's a floating balance circuit. Now, I didn't talk about that very much, but we talked about that solid foundation. This amplifier is balanced all the way through. It has XLR inputs. So you have a balanced signal coming in, going through a balanced preamp, all the way out to a balanced amplifier. It never touches ground. It's floating. So the music can be open and expressive and things like that. But we have to have that solid foundation. We have to have it floating. If you look really careful, you see all the little arrows on the MOSFETs are pointing in. They're all N-channel MOSFETs. That's the plus side. There's the minus side. If you look, all the devices on both sides, and this is a simplified schematic, are identical. So they have the same properties to them. We don't have two different types of devices splitting up the plus and minus signal that we're going through. So floating and balance, the speaker terminals are not grounded. There's signal on both sides of the speaker terminals, so don't ground them. And let's see. There's a back panel. We kind of looked at that. It's just
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean those
I've never
big,
even seen an AC on the center. I think that's pretty tight.
Yeah, you'll see it on some high end. A lot of separate power amps will do that because it's a little bit easier. You don't have as much electronics inside there. But the giant,
cool.
The funny story about the speaker terminals, those knobs that are on there, they're machined brass and polished. They were designed from the concept was a water faucet. Because so many speaker terminals that you go to tighten them by hand, and if you're using spades or whatever it is, they always come loose.
Yeah, gotcha.
Unless you're using bare wire, it's the only time you have half a chance, because you don't have enough torque.
Yeah, they're not totally round, it looks like.
Yeah, and so you can grab it, and they're huge. They're over a ½ inch across. So when you grab onto those to torque them down with your hand, that wire and that connector is not going anywhere.
Nice.
Now, of course, it's all gold and stuff like that. And you got 2 sets of balanced inputs on that. So if you have some balanced components, there's just another, it holds super huge 4-gauge wire.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, 4-gauge wire.
That's almost like welding cable, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. We looked at the side. Oh, I didn't show you. The side panels are made out of wood, of piano gloss wood. Yamaha has a patented technique for making grand pianos to put that beautiful finish on them. We've been building them over 100 years. We're using that same finish on the side panels of these amplifiers right here. They're just gorgeous, and there's no screws. They hit everything. And then the interface, you got to have a really cool remote control. This is a brushed aluminum remote control. Just has your basic buttons, but that's actually your physical interface between the amplifier. So it doesn't matter. The amplifier can be just totally awesome. You put a cheap plastic remote in the customer's hand, you'll lose the whole feel and the whole experience. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're kind of winding down to yeah, so the 3 models, and they go down. You get less balanced and things like that. I don't want to get into all the details. You can go to yamaha.com/AV and look it all up yourself.
Okay.
But again, these are all based off the 5000 series. The NS 5000 series is all designed by the same group of people.
Has that trickle down effect kind of deal?
Yeah, and that's what's fun. We do that every so often with a certain product line. We will just cut the engineers loose, let them go nuts. And we know that those technologies and skills that we learned developing that will trickle down for years to come. 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, we'll still be using what we learned on this 5000 series. But we're lucky today because it came to the field really quick. So we talked a little bit about Yamaha. Mr. Yamaha does exist. HiFi, first product with HiFi on it was kind of interesting. We talked about the goals, and I think we achieved most of that, of how you make an engineering decision. It's not by specs. It's not the lowest noise chip or the lowest noise capacitor or resistor. It's what's it sound like. I know one of the things that we did with an earlier product with our Avantage line of AV receivers, we found out that the main fuse, the 15 amp fuse, the power line comes in, the first thing goes to is a fuse, and that's for UL approval and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The fuses all sound different.
Interesting.
We didn't know that. It was kind of by mistake that when they were designing the line, that one team was voicing it, the other team was speccing parts because they got to start ordering parts to go in production. And so he was making sure they could supply it from these fuses from different manufacturers, try to get more sources. Wow. And it's so he did his thing, it spec'd out, it blew at 15 amps, it met spec and everything, gave it back to the sound tuning guys. The sound tuning guys go, "What'd you do with our amp? We had it almost perfect." and now it sounds different.
Mm-hmm.
And they traced it back, and it was that 15 amp fuse made a difference in a 7-channel 140 watt
Interesting
surround receiver. So these components are really, really critical. We have to do it for the sound quality. I mean,
awesome.
we make the $100,000 pianos. We got to make sure the recording of those pianos comes across really well.
Sweet. Well, Phil, we got about 5 or 6 minutes. Let me go and jump through some of these questions here. So, Chana, you be looking for some as well. So here's True Voice of Reason. With all the different types of metals, are there any problems with electrical potential or heat flex due to the dissimilarity?
Yeah, and that's been taken into account. The way the stuff is attached together with screws and bolts and things like that. So it's made to flex. And yeah, when you have dissimilar metals, you're going to have different types of things. Everything has a coating on it, so it's not an electrical problem. It just keeps everything plain. But that's a good question. There's an engineer for you.
All right, go ahead, Chana.
All right. From Life of Bliss, could you touch on the difference between balance amp and differential? These are balanced but not differential, correct?
Yes.
The short answer.
They are balanced and they're differential. So they're opposite on both terminals. So one side goes positive, the other side goes negative.
Interesting. Here's another one. Is there a special tool to tighten down the speaker knobs with 4-gauge speaker wires?
Yeah, it's called a set of vice grips. No.
Not good. Not good.
Don't use vice grips on that. No, it's pretty good. There's no tool for it. It is they're big enough knobs where you can get some pretty darn good torque on it.
Yeah.
I have I'll send you my mailing address.
Yeah, definitely.
Michael.
That's hilarious.
Send it right over.
And what's the power output on this?
Yeah, it's 100 watts.
100 watts. Yeah. You said it earlier. Here's a question.
100 watts into 8 and 150 into 4 is just clean sound.
So here's kind of a question from Kanga. So making it symmetrical helps to control the linear response of the whole curve?
Kind of. Not that as much as keeping it off of balance, keeping it off of ground. Because once you attach something to ground, you've stuck it to something. So the source comes through. Let's say it's a phono cartridge, for instance. A phono cartridge is balanced. You got 2 wires coming out for left and right channel, and that's balanced coming all the way through. As soon as you attach a ground to it, now you're stuck with how clean that ground is, or how big that ship is that we looked at earlier. If it's not a really big ship, then we got problems. So you're better to let it float as long as it's floating on something that's foundationally stable and super strong.
Yeah. Here's another question from.
Sorry.
That's all good. I'm trying to make sure we get we're doing good on time though. So will there be a 3-channel version or keep with 2? And so more than likely these are integrated amps. I'm not sure you would do a 3 with that. But.
And you know what? I'll tell you what. To be honest with you, the market size starts getting really small. Yamaha is an international brand.
Sure.
Europe and Canada and Asia and things like that. So we kind of have to. We can build really high-end products that can be used worldwide and used for a while. So, yeah, it'd be cool. I always think about it because that's what I need a stack of that stuff in my rack, but probably not.
I think Joe's trying to show you his Yamaha.
Yeah, so I got the AS501 over here. I'll just send this one over. You send that one. Do a little switch around. Swap.
I know you like the 501. You gave us a nice review on that.
Oh, I love it.
Got your back
you know who has one also is Audio Architects has one because I told him he needs one.
Yeah.
And I think he's liking his over there. He got the black version.
Yeah. And again, you get down to, what would be a mid-price integrated amplifier. Hey, the guys don't forget what they learned building a high-end integrated amp, when they go down, they don't go stupid on you when they start designing, lower priced products. I mean, that's the beauty of having a big company like Yamaha, is they can take their skills, experience, and things like that and take it all the way down.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. People are always saying, "Hey, how come you don't review, more Yamaha stuff?" I'm like, they don't send it to me. So if you guys send it to me,
you got our phone number, you got my email. Just let's do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, but it's awesome though. I love this thing. So thanks for the opportunity for that.
We've picture you showed about the 5000 series. Did you guys have that in your private suite at CES 2019? Is that what I saw there?
Yes, that's what you got to listen to there.
That's what I saw there. Yeah, that was awesome. That was great. Those are fantastic.
And then my question is also, do VU meters make it sound better? Because it seems like it to me.
Makes you smile more.
They give you more. They give you 5 more horsepower, right?
Yeah,
that makes me happy, man.
Yeah, when you're watching the meters, you listen to the music. So it does. Bad music sounds good if you got meters. It does have a switch on, because high-end audiophile guys, they can't stand meters.
I got to
turn it off
because they don't like that. They can hear the noise or bad ear.
What's the lowest model I can get that still has meters?
Would be the 2100, and so that's $2,800.
Okay.
Or the AS 2200. I'm sorry, 2200.
All right.
Back up. 1200. AS 1200 is 2800.
Time out.
Trying to do time and model numbers.
Right, dude.
Oh man,
Phil, this has honestly been great, man. I think just looking at the comments here, a lot of you guys seem to really enjoy this. So glad you guys are having fun, man. And I'm glad we had Phil on the show, man. This has been great.
No, this is good. And thank you guys again for putting this on, because this is awesome. This is what our industry needs. We just need more stuff like this to get more awareness of this stuff, because so many people don't even know this cool stuff exists. And it's people like you and doing events like this will help spread the word and keep us going.
Appreciate you even just walking us through like all the little pieces of an amplifier and the integrated amplifier. That was something I've never seen, because I don't get super technical on the inside of it. But to be able to see that and still be able to track with you, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they don't let you take screwdrivers into the stores when checking out what's under.
Exactly. Like, doesn't really happen that way.
I mean, I'll open up an amplifier and be like, "Ooh, cool! What am I looking at?"
I don't know. Like big old toroidal transformer. That's right.
Capacitors.
Yep. Other than that,
bunch of wires. I don't know.
Well, thanks. I had a great time, man.
Well, good. I'm glad. Glad to share
here for you, man.
Stuff with you. Thank you very much, you guys.
And
thank you for watching.
Is it Yamaha or Yamaha?
I think it's Yamaha. What do you think, Shauna?
I don't know. I don't know.
Really?
That's tough to say.
The official. What's the
I've
official?
heard it both ways, but what is it?
It's Yamaha.
Yamaha.
Right. I mean,
Yamaha with no accent.
There's no
I know these guys are gonna kill me, and I'm gonna get killed in the comments to say this. Don't send me that integrated amplifier, please. Just send me an 8-octave montage.
There you go.
Okay, we can do that too. Well,
that's what I want to check out. Okay,
Sean will be playing a thing.
Yeah. Well,
that's cool.
Very good. Thank you so much, Phil, for stopping by, and everybody hanging out. Don't forget, we have one more talk today. It's Canto Audio, and it's about powered speakers. Why powered speakers? Everybody's wondering what's going on. So we have that coming in at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in about 12 minutes. Don't forget to jump in the lobby discussion. And of course, there's also the video chat, the group video chat. So at the very bottom of the lobby discussion, you can click for the group video chat. We might see you in there just for a little bit in between sessions. And don't forget, also got the HiFi night featuring my favorite tracks to test out your system. That happens at 5 p.m. Again, thanks a lot, Phil.
5, so you got a 1 hour nap time. That's what I'm gonna do.
Right? Yeah, I gotta set up a few things, but yes, we'll have a whole lot of fun. We'll see you soon.
It's gonna be high energy, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
Phil,
thank you.
Great
guys.
having you, sir.
Yeah.
Bye. I think Phil had a good